1980X, a time machine transporting you back to a time when, well, probably before most of you were born. But the message is timeless. My name is Mikey, and this is another Nindy Nexus review. This time we're talking about 1980X, a unique arcade-style yet narrative-driven game set in the 80s. It brings a sleepy, somber tone, with segmented jolts of neon dreams plugging into your dopamine receptors like arcade cabinets, illuminating the fog-filled frenzy going on in our minds. I'll give you the short breakdown of the game design before diving deep here. 1980X plays out in segments, alternating between familiar classic-style arcade games and voice-acted cutscenes fueled by monologue and melancholic soliloquy.
You could go from bug collector in the morning to bank robber before bedtime. Anything was possible.
The gameplay I reference is similar to what you may expect. For instance, the game opens with a classic beat-em-up, updated with high-quality pixel graphics and smooth combat. You'll get to experience many genres too, from 2D side-scrolling space shoot-em-ups to 3D dungeon-crawling RPGs. It's an admirable feat to have them all included in the game, but we'll talk more about that later. The progress in the story portions uniquely ties into the arcade gameplay by serving you up those shots of nostalgia chased and laced with sobering emotional elements. It's sort of a yin and yang dichotomy that is a welcomed breath of fresh air. We're going to get a bit deep here, but I think we're ready to explore that now. 1980X. It's a foggy window with each drop of condensation slowly trailing down, revealing a world of potential in teary-eyed streaks like a silent expression of emotion. But that potential is quarantined, restrained to just beyond your grasp. And you are there, on the inside, looking out, desperate to console, to offer a comforting embrace, but all you can do is place your hand to the opposing surface, your warmth obstructed by a glassy, lifeless, translucent chill. Life's unfair sometimes. What an intro, huh? Gives you the feels just like this game will. Now let's lighten it up a bit here. I want to start by telling you all my favorite part of 1980X. The thing is, I can't decide what I enjoy more about this game. The stellar pixel art graphics or the cool, smoky voice acting. They're both so evocative in their own way and complement each other so expressively. But I suppose we'll talk graphics first, because there are two distinct things happening in the aesthetics department. On one hand, you have the narrative, the story in between the gameplay sessions, which is displayed in its own gorgeously detailed pixel art. Those visuals start in lighter, almost washed out colors, emphasizing minimal ambient movements, such as a car on the road or the life happening around your character as they slowly walk down the sidewalk. It eventually transitions to dark and cool, with rain falling or smoke dancing through the air. This style mimics the tone throughout the story and sets the different moods in just the right ways. And I love that technique, when most things are still, frozen in time, but the focus on the scene is moving. It's like watching a storyboard of pictures coming to life. And speaking of things coming to life, there's a very specific sort of life brought to the game through its voice narration as well.
They say that when you grow up, something inside you dies. I'm still not sure if that's good or bad. When you're a child, shadows seem darker and lights seem brighter. Everything is more terrifying and more exciting at the same time.
Your character, with the voice talents of Maya Tuttle, is a young, jaded teenager, a misfit, hyper-aware of the frivolity of high school politics and status, yet still falls victim to the cliché of it all. Add in a relatively empty home life, and they find themselves wandering down dark alleys alone at night, desperately seeking an escape, some spark in life. Luckily, this only manifests itself in the form of neon arcade cabinets, living life one quarter at a time. You can't help but feel the mixture of angst and existentialism, and because of it, have a sense of connection to them. All this emotion naturally forms a relationship between player and character, urging you to continue, waiting to explore that narrative. In each cutscene, you're there, once again, hanging on every word. Looking back, between the appealing pixel art, evocative voice acting, and clever scripting, I see now and appreciate how methodical the pacing is. The developers work to keep the player enthralled in a nostalgic reverie the entire time. And it's done very well. It's just a shame that this enjoyment, this feeling, is so excruciatingly short-lived. Unfortunately, 1980X's biggest downfall is the overall game length. It's time to beat. I don't think I've ever unironically complained about a game being too short, but I suppose there's a first for everything. It's a game that abruptly ends, prematurely even, with a screen letting you know that it is to be continued. Seeing that screen, I almost felt robbed of the experience. And to me, it's not just the overall game that does this, it's a recurring theme. Every mini game you play, which is the action or gameplay between the narrative cutscenes, is also very short-lived. To the developers' credit, they are all well done, but, I mean, what the heck? If the developers are trying to send a message that all good things must come to an end, then bravo, they did a phenomenal job. Message received, loud and clear. But, unfortunately, I can't shake the feeling that it was more along the lines of teasing the player. I say that because it's like, just when you get the hang of the game you're playing, it switches to something completely different. Again and again, and then it ends with a screen telling you that it's not really the end. It's almost as if the developers just wanted to show off their development skills in an array of different genres, saying, look at this awesome thing we can do with this genre, and then proceed to cut the thought short and display something else. What do you think is better? Is this a case of being a jack of all trades but master of none? I'd like to think not. I can't believe this to be true. Each respective minigame has too much potential for that to be the case. And that's what I'm talking about. We were given just a small taste, a mere lick of the batter-covered spoon, enticing you to forcefully contain the drool within your mouth as the next installment is baking in the oven. I would have rather just waited until the cake was baked to try it as a whole finished product. Don't give me a sample of the sweet mix and then force me to watch the timer whilst the tempting smells from the oven infiltrate my innocent nostrils. We don't deserve any of this. Okay, I'm exaggerating with my metaphors, of course, but there is no exaggeration when I say all the great things about this game are overshadowed by the pure lack of game. Upon finishing the game and seeing that haunting ending screen with those words burned into the screen that you never want to see, to be continued, I thought perhaps there would be some kind of endgame here, that maybe there would be some sort of reveal or post-game sequence to give the game a proper cliffhanger. But the unfortunate truth is that there is none. You can replay any portion of the game afterward, but there's nothing really laying the foundation for a bridge to gap a sequel. And with a complete time to beat of probably anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, nothing ever really builds up enough to even form a cliffhanger. Perhaps movies can get away with this time frame because so many plots tend to be rushed or condensed, but comparatively speaking, this is episodic at best if we're talking games. Simply put, this game is you being an episode or two into that great new Netflix show you got hyped for, but then you find out those 1 or 2 episodes are the entire season, and the next season has no release date. Enough metaphors though, I'm just disappointed more than anything because it shows greatness, but only in a bite-sized portion, and I came hungry. I think I'm going to skip the condensed joys and cons on this one, as things are already condensed enough around here. I think you know where I stand and what's good and not so good about this game. So I'll close with my final thoughts here. I've had many discussions over game ratings and factors that go into trying to put a subjective opinion into something quantitative, and without having anywhere near what I would consider a full game, I find it kind of difficult to do. But I'm not the developer. I didn't create this game and I didn't choose this release style. I'd love to say I'll just wait until the next installment to make a proper judgment of the game as a whole, but this is it. This is the released game. This is how the developers intended it to be, and this is how the player experiences it. And so I've made up my mind. 1980X is receiving the Nindy Nexus Half Heart, which is honestly a little bit of a shame for how much quality this game has. But I think it's a fair assessment and I stand by my decision. That said, I am looking forward to the next installment and I hope it comes sooner than later. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for it. But enough serious talk. Thank you all so much for joining me for my review of 1980X. I hope my perspective has brought light to a game that you may have been wondering about. And if you like this video, please gently move your cursor over to the thumbs up and single click because it is very sensitive. If you didn't like it, there's a thumbs down next to that thumbs up button, but if you choose that one, you may want to double click it. Remember, my name is Mikey with Nindy Nexus. For more great indie game goodness, visit our website, nindynexus.net. I'm talking over 600 reviews, lots of thoughts, lots of games, lots of greatness. And I can't believe I almost forgot this. The most important thing, don't forget,